So Wendy Williams is ill. Wendy Williams has COVID-19. The premiere date is postponed to October so she can fully recover. Wendy Williams has COVID-19, so the season premiere of her eponymous talk show has been postponed to October the 4th. So this is by Susan Byrne, and she's an editor of Yahoo Entertainment. So while continuing her health evaluations, Wendy has tested positive for a breakthrough case of COVID-19. This was said in a statement on the 57-year-old social media account Wednesday. This was on her Instagram account. And so it continued on to allow Wendy time to quarantine and fully recover, and to ensure that our production abides by all the SAG and AFTRA and DGA COVID protocols. We expect to begin the 13th season of the Wendy Williams Show on Monday, October the 4th. So in the meantime, repeats are scheduled. So they're going to have, I guess, like shows that have already previously aired until her show, her new episodes start airing. So this basically is on her Instagram account, and it's what I just really read to you. And while Wendy Williams expressed concern about getting the vaccine early this year, with Dr. Oz appearing on her show in March to explain that it is safe, she's fully vaccinated. That's with 2 vaccine shots, or at least with enough vaccine that she's supposed to be fully vaccinated. Because some people had Pfizer, some people had Moderna, which I believe those two you have to have 2 shots, and then there's Johnson & Johnson, which is 1 shot. So a source confirms to Yahoo Entertainment about this. The vaccine breakthrough infections, which remain rare, occur when a fully vaccinated person gets infected with COVID-19. So, however, the vaccine is still doing its job in providing protection against the most severe forms of the disease. So, as a result, hospitalized or fatal COVID-19 vaccine breakthrough cases are uncommon. Wendy Williams has been dealing with her own health issues as of late and canceled scheduled appearances to promote her talk show. So last Thursday, the show announced Wendy Williams has ongoing health issues and is undergoing further evaluations. As a result, she was canceling her promotional activities this week. But the premiere was still expected to take place on September 20th. So in recent years, Wendy Williams has taken off from work due to her health, including grave disease, which is an immune system disorder that causes the thyroid to become overactive. So something that she was first diagnosed with in 1999. So she also spent time in a sober living residential facility to treat her addiction to alcohol and prescription drugs. So at the end of last season, Wendy Williams' show, she welcomed back her studio audience, or her co-host as she refers to viewers. Per show rules, it's required that the audience members are fully vaccinated, wear masks on the studio premises at all times. So that's basically the article. So Wendy Williams had a breakthrough case, and so she announced it on her Instagram, and this is how it looks. And so she is really trying to recover from this, and she already somewhat is immunocompromised, having had in 1999 the Graves' disease, and then also her health being compromised for other reasons. So, from what I've heard, is that you still, if you get vaccinated, you still could possibly contract COVID-19. And so that's what I know that they had said. But you're supposed to have some level of defense so you won't have the severe forms and end up intubated or end up worse, maybe death. So they say it's rare, but that's what they say. So to bring it to now, they have been talking a lot about booster shots. shots. And what I heard a man talking about earlier this week, he was confused. And he said, I think people are confused because at first they were saying that people such as like Wendy Williams who have like immunocompromised bodies, they have something that they might have had a disease or something. Like she had grave disease. Other people have maybe cancer. They have diabetes. They are already have like a weak immune system from other things that they might have been diagnosed with, so they needed to get these booster shots right away so that they won't end up having to succumb to this COVID-19. But what I was hearing is that there was some breakthrough cases, and it wasn't just a few. There were plenty of breakthrough cases, and that where people were getting it, but they weren't getting that sick. They were getting sick, but not to the point to where they ended up intubated. However, there were some that maybe if they already were immunocompromised, their bodies had a weaker immune system, might have had the risk of ending up in the ER and ICU. And so what I've learned is that kids are getting it. So now that they're trying to give shots to kids that are 12 and up. But some people work jobs where they're around children that are under the age of 12. So there was also this push to try to get kids that were under the age of 12 with shots. Now there are preschool teachers. They're thinking of the teachers that work in grade school, that work with kids that are 12 and above. But there's some grade school levels where the kids are under the age of 12 that they weren't approved to get the shots. But I believe now LUSD and some of the schools are trying to get these kids the shots. That's if their parents want to do that. Now they're supposed to have like regular testing. I don't know if that's still happening or not. This is here in South LA that I'm talking or referring to. Some places, some states are different. The rate of disease infection or how it's spreading is different. So the way people receive the information, I believe, is different. If they don't see a lot of death happening, they don't feel the need that they need to wear protection. I believe that's what's going on. There's a lot of divisions because of fear or distrust of the government, or they're part of religious groups or cults or whatever it is. But I'm thinking, depending on the level of severity of the sickness, if they don't see people dropping like flies, they don't feel that serious. That is something they have to worry about. And so I guess it depends on the environment. What we have approaching us right now is the holiday season. Here in South LA, they've opened up all the football stadiums. We have out here Halloween Horror Nights. We have like October, all of the October and Harvest and Halloween festivals. They have one in Hollywood. They have a costume parade or masquerade parades. People have private get-togethers where they have masquerade balls, room dancing and stuff like that. And so it's like a lot of festivities happen around those times of the month, in the fall. Then you have the November festivities and December Thanksgiving and then Christmas events. And so those are the things that people do a lot of gathering. They might want to go to movies or be with family members or start traveling. And I believe some people are more about the economy and more about getting their money and people going back to work and opening up the businesses again and pretending like this thing is non-existent. But from what I'm hearing, there's a virus that's so deadly. It's far deadlier than COVID, Delta ever would be. And they got this one called the Mu, and they got this one called Nipah, which they spotted in India. And they said it has the potential to be a pandemic. And it can create more death, more than we ever would see. And I believe that's why they're trying to hurry up and push these boosters, because they're in fear that this thing has already got out and it's a possibility that it could spread and get around to people so quickly that we will see a lot more death. And I believe that's what the fear is, that this thing might have gotten out, because they don't know where right now that this boy contracted this Nipah virus. It's in India. He's 12 years old and he died of it. And so They don't talk a lot about it. They've been mentioning it briefly, but I don't think it's getting as much press coverage because it's not really widely known just yet from everyone. And I do remember at one time when he was leading the leading voice of the World Health Organization, Tedros, which I believe he's still involved in that. He said, "You think COVID-19 is really deadly? It's not as deadly as some of the other viruses that are about to come out." And he kind of forewarned, and I believe they saw what was coming. And it's because of all this indifference. You have these people fighting so hard not to be protected. It's just, it's kind of sickening because now the kids are starting to get sick. And you do have kids that are in the ICU or they're being intubated. And I saw where a nurse, she just broke into tears because children are being heavily affected. And you have these preschool teachers who are working with kids who are like little babies that can't be given these shots. And the parents are the ones, if they refuse to get any protection, they might end up being infected and give it to their kids. And then what do they want to do? Drop their kids off at a child care. That kid, if he's infected, he not only is infecting the other children, but those teachers that have to work around that. And so that makes it a ground zero for kids to be infected and a lot of more child death possibly because they have no protection from this. And I believe whatever they say this other virus is so deadly that it's a lot more contagious and a lot more deadlier than COVID-19. Because right now they're looking at it, they made it seem like the kids couldn't get it. Now we see the kids can get it. Then they made it seem like, well, the kids, their bodies are stronger than the older people's bodies. And we do have stories where kids have died of it. And then you have people who maybe they aren't immunocompromised and they died of it. They weren't, you know, they didn't have any health issues that they knew of and they ended up somehow dying. So what I've been hearing is that it's a possibility we have some other things out there, and I don't think they've really been trying to say too much about it just yet because they've been watching the public's reaction on how they deal with this. And so it's hard to receive information, but what I've known is there's this indifference. You have some people that believe it, some people that don't believe it, or it's fear, or they just want to just be very egocentric about the whole issue. Or like the one guy, I don't know if he's a celebrity or whatnot, there was somebody saying that he'd rather be more about the economy and he's willing to die for the economy. So that didn't really sound right to me. It sounded really, you know, it sounded crazy. Um, so there are people like that, though, unfortunately, and we've seen that. There's been a lot of evictions, a lot of people being put out, their jobs just barely open back up. People can't make the money fast enough to pay their landlord. They don't want to wait. They have to give people time to make the money in order to pay them. So it's like it's crazy. It's like people just don't have any empathy anymore, no sensitivity to people's human suffering and issues and circumstances, and it's unkind and it shows. And I believe that these other viruses are going to be so bad that it's going to force shutdowns because of the indifference. And so I didn't want to go into all of that so deep, but I feel like that's where it almost has to end up for people to see, oh man, this shit is real serious. We got people dropping like flies now. This ain't no joke. I feel like it has to be to that level, to that scale of death for people to get it. And I believe this last virus that they're talking about, they don't want to say too much about it, but they say it has the potential to do that. And so at that point, I know there's some places they said they've been rationing the care. And what that says to me is when somebody comes in, you know how we see these stories and people rush into the ER and they want you to fix whatever's wrong with their loved one. They want a doctor right away. They don't want to fill out no forms. They don't want to hear no talking, asking questions. Just get them on the bed, get them to a doctor and fix this. It's going to be to the point to where it's like that, but they're going to end up having to turn people away because they don't have enough beds, or they don't have enough room, or enough people, enough staff. And so what I have noticed here in South LA, you used to see a lot of people, like, they would get up in the morning, they would go to work, and cars would be gone. You don't see that no more hardly because of these mandates. They've been coming to people with these papers asking or requesting now. It's actually not even asking anymore. They're requesting that people get these shots. And with all of the pushback, you have law enforcement, city workers, a lot of people not getting the shots. I'm seeing a lot of cars, parts, people staying home. And so I don't know how they're paying their bills. I can say that much. But that's what I'm seeing. So whatever else is coming out there that's far worse than COVID-19, boy, it's going to be bad. If that's what they say it is, I believe that if that is what they say it is, it's already out there. It just hasn't made its way or circulated enough yet through the population for people to raise the alarm. Um, but I believe if it does, and if people start seeing people dropping like flies, I don't think that all these little petty beefs will happen as much as they do right now. It'd be like people rushing to the hospitals and rushing to get these medicines and things like that, anything to save their life because people will be